But these are not normal times, so we have to call it out with clarity and conviction. But this is part of what we have to do and not get distracted with distractions and focus on what is essential. This is essential, but we got to stay focused on it so the American people can stay focused on it, because his success is his ability to win every damn news cycle and to get us distracted and moving in 25 different directions and to be overwhelmed by everything that's coming at us 24/7. On this, we have to maintain our vigilance, focus, and our energy. And this has to be the issue that, I mean, this not even, there's no margin on this issue.
Meanwhile.
Yeah, well, I was very proud of my friend Chris Van Hollen for what he did, because he restored the humanity to this whole controversy that's going on. And he wasn't afraid, or he felt some fear, but he moved forward and he showed everybody, yeah, we can get on an airplane and we can go and face the problem directly. And then, of course, they've been lying about the trip and tried to stage some false margarita scene there. But look, President Bukele, who's declared himself a dictator, and the other tyrants, dictators, autocrats of the world have to understand that the Trump administration is not going to last forever. We're going to restore strong democracy to America, and we will remember who stood up for democracy in America and who tried to drive us down towards dictatorship and autocracy. So I'm glad that Chris Van Hollen showed exactly where America is, and we're not afraid of any dictator anywhere.
Boy. So once again, we got to talk about Democrats humiliating themselves by showing the American people that they care about literally everybody else over the American citizen. Okay, they are flying to El Salvador. You have 4 Democrats that have flown to El Salvador to try to rescue illegal immigrants, including Abrego Garcia. Okay, the illegal immigrant, alleged gang member, wife beating, human trafficker, right? This is what you have 4 more Democrats flying to El Salvador to try to do, to bring him back to the United States of America. Because according to him, okay, Senator Chris Van Hollen, who went there first, he's an American.
I think at some point, the president of El Salvador realized it was looking really bad to have this person who had been absconded from America, from the streets of Maryland, in one of their prisons.
And also on top of that, according to these Democrats, it's not El Salvador that is his home, even though he's a citizen of El Salvador. He is not an American citizen. No. America is this guy's home, okay? Not El Salvador, the country that he's from.
4 House Democrats are in El Salvador this morning trying to secure the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This comes just days after Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen's visit. We heard from the senator just a few moments ago. The lawmakers say they plan to meet with Salvadorian officials at the U.S. Embassy to advocate for Abrego Garcia's return and get information on the other migrants who were deported to a notorious Salvadorian prison. Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California is leading the delegation and joins us now live from El Salvador. Congressman, good morning. Thank you for being with us this morning. You're there with 3 fellow Democrats. Talk to us, just start why this mission here is so important, and not just about Mr. Abrego Garcia, but all the others who were deported, many would say, without due process.
Good morning. Yes. Look, what's really important here that people need to understand is we have the president of the United States defying a 9-0 unanimous Supreme Court decision to bring Kilmar back home to the United States. This, in my opinion, is on its way to a constitutional crisis in this country. You cannot defy not just Supreme Court, but also lower courts. The Trump administration has also said that they sent Mr. Abrego Garcia here on accident. It is time to bring Kilmar home, and we're continuing the work of Senator Van Hollen. Look, we will not be the last members of the delegation to be here. There's other senators and members of Congress that will be here in El Salvador. But it's really important that we advocate for his release. He has been wrongly sent here, as have, by the way, hundreds of other individuals who are in our country in different status, asylum seekers, people that were on some type of permit, some type of student visas we know are being deported across the country as well to other places. And so this is a moment for us to stand for our values and for due process in this country. We also know it's not just about Kilmar. There's a young man named Avery down here, 19 years old, young gay man, hairdresser, seeking asylum, got sent here. We have no proof of life yet of how he's doing. So we have a lot of work to do. We're on our way. way actually to the embassy to get a classified briefing in just about an hour.
Yeah, so you see, Nate, you heard that. I want you guys to understand. You have Democrats now using taxpayer funds to go to foreign countries to negotiate with foreign governments against the United States of America, against our official U.S. foreign policy. And now they're making threats. Like, for example, you have Jamie Raskin, who is basically saying that Nayib Bukele will be punished if Democrats take back power in the House if he refuses to release his own citizen, right? An El Salvadorian citizen. If he refuses to give back an El Salvadorian citizen to the United States of America, then he can be punished. I think that these politicians are now at the point where they should be investigated for violating the Logan Act, okay? Because what is happening is that they're trying to undermine Trump's foreign policy. That's what they're trying to do.
Now, I realize that we do not have majorities in either the House or the Senate. It's very challenging. But I was talking to a very smart Latin America policy expert earlier this week who suggested to me that Democrats should threaten to take action against any foreign government that participates in the extraordinary rendition of American citizens. The idea being, we say to them, look, if you mess with American citizens, we will cut off future assistance. We will seek to prosecute foreign officials involved in these illegal actions. Basically, we publicly warn these leaders, Trump's in power now. We're going to be back at some point, maybe in the midterms. We're keeping score. Thoughts on that idea?
Well, that's right. We should be talking about cutting off aid to El Salvador right now. The whole idea that Bukele doesn't have any power to return an American prisoner who was sent to him under an agreement where he's getting paid $6 million by America is ridiculous. He's our legal agent in this dubious arrangement they've created.
Right.
Of course, he's got the power to return them. So he and Trump are just acting like a couple of dictators having fun at the expense of a man's life and his family, and they want to be able to do that all over the place. So I like that idea, and it's a complement to something that we need to be doing right now, which is engaging in far more work of transnational democratic solidarity with the democratic governments and the democratic movements and peoples and parties of the world.
Totally agree.
To try to prevent the spread of the lawlessness and the fascist chaos that's been unleashed against us. But implicit in it should be the idea that if and when we come back to power, and we will, we are not going to look kindly upon people who facilitated, to use a word of the day, who facilitated authoritarianism in our country. Because that's an assault on our Constitution and on our people.
Yeah, I hope we can effectuate that outcome. You talked about this. Some nerdy jokes there. An anonymous.
Wow. Just when you thought the Democrats could not get more insane, Jamie Raskin is literally referring to illegal immigrants as Americans. Now, again, in the context of the conversation, the propagandists try to frame it as if we're talking about American citizens. There are no American citizens that have been sent to El Salvador to be locked up. I don't think that's going to happen. But clearly, what Jamie Raskin is talking about, he's referring to the illegal immigrant, and he's saying that the illegal immigrant is an American, okay? And that Nayib Bukele must release or bring back an illegal immigrant, somebody who is not American and El Salvadorian citizen, one of his own people. He must bring back one of his own people to the United States of America, or else Democrats are going to punish El Salvador, right? They're going to cut off aid to El Salvador because El Salvador is not giving them their own citizens, right? Again, this is insane, right? This is absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. The crazy part about it is that you actually do have Democrats who are pretending to be sane, like, for example, Gavin Newsom, that has been warning these Democrats, hey, listen, this is not a good idea. This is not the hill that we should be dying on. But for whatever reason, Democrats do believe this is the hill they should be dying on, and they're getting more and more and more extreme, right? It's at the point now where, again, a lot of them should be prosecuted under the Logan Act, okay? Because this is just treason, right? That's exactly what it is. It's treason. It reminds me of what General Milley tried to do in the wake of January 6th, and decided, hey, it'd be a good idea to let China know that we're on their side, right? Just in case Trump decides to attack China, which was not going to happen. But again, this is what they did, right? This is what they do. They will work to undermine the president on foreign policy. And at some point, people have to say, no, you cannot engage in treason against the president just because you don't like him, right? You cannot come out here and threaten the leaders of foreign countries just because they are working with the president of the United States, right? That is what these Democrats are doing. That's what they're doing. So again, I'm at the point where I want to see some prosecutions, right? I would have no issues whatsoever if these 4 Democrats, all of the Democrats that go over to El Salvador, if they just happen to get detained, okay? If they happen to get detained and they have a hard time coming back, who knows? Maybe they end up in that prison. I'm going to say, well, you know, they were over there basically committing treason. So, I mean, hey, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm not going to be begging for them to come back, right? I don't think that we should be putting much pressure, okay? If Nayib Bukele decides that, hey, these people are threatening me, it might be a good idea. It might be a good idea to go ahead and nip this problem in the bud. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm just saying, I don't know if it's a good idea to be actively threatening the person that Democrats are calling a dictator, while you currently have Democrat politicians in his country trying to bring back illegal immigrants. I just don't think that's a good idea. But that's essentially what Democrats are doing. And that leads me to my next story here that I want to talk about that's somewhat related, because the Supreme Court has issued a temporary stop to President Trump being able to deport these gang members under the Alien Enemies Act, right? And I want to talk about this briefly because it really shows you how difficult it is for President Trump to execute on these mass deportations due to the fact that, again, it seems like the whole system is against him trying to fix the problem that Democrats created. Again, you can bring in 10 to 20 million illegals. They don't get any due process, right? They just come right on in, right? Just let them right on in. And if you try to get rid of them, all of a sudden, you have to go through these legal roadblocks. But they didn't have to go through any legal roadblocks to let the illegals in. You got to go through legal roadblocks to deport them. That's what's wrong with our system right now, okay? And this is the real constitutional crisis. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Justice Samuel Alito dissenting from the Supreme Court ruling blocking deportations of suspected Venezuelan gang members, saying, quote, in sum, literally in the middle of the night, the court issued unprecedented and legally questionable relief without giving the lower courts a chance to rule. This is why the White House releases rap sheets, photos of TDA members it wants to deport. Here to react is George Washington law professor and Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley. Professor, thank you so much for joining us this morning. You know,
Thanks,
one
Charlie.
of the things that us non-lawyers who get confused about a lot of this stuff often sort of wonder about is the process. Sometimes judges are defending a process and that doesn't make sense to us, and so you have to take a second breath. But this is a case where Justice Alito took a torpedo to the actual process of what his colleagues were doing. And to me, that's very unsettling as somebody who loves the law, wants us to protect the law, but also doesn't understand what the heck is going on here.
Yeah, basically, the Supreme Court did not rule on the merits of the case. So this is not a loss, okay, so to speak, or anything like that. It's just more the Supreme Court, I guess, feeling overwhelmed with the fact that there are all these nationwide injunctions from these district courts. So for whatever reason, they decided to pause, right, to make President Trump pause on the deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. And that pissed off Samuel Alito because he's like, listen, this is not how the process is supposed to work, right? We should not be stopping the president from being able to do his job while these cases work their way up through the courts, right? We shouldn't be doing that. This is not how the process is supposed to go.
Well, you know, Charlie, you get a sense of the frustration that a number of the members of the court are experiencing with this torrent of emergency appeals. And what Justice Alito is saying is, we need to get back to regular order because these cases are coming to us without a record. We don't know what the position of lower courts are. It's basically an improvisational type of filing. And Alito is basically saying, I'm having enough of this. The court earlier basically, chastised lower courts. There's a strong suggestion that they were allowing form shopping. They sent one case out of D.C. and said that Judge Bosberg, who's currently considering a contempt charge, should never have even heard that case, which is what a number of us said at the outset, that he should never have accepted a case that was actually a habeas case belonging down south. So I think you see this level of frustration rising with the justices. I expect that what we're going to be seeing here is an effort of the court to create better guideposts for lower courts. We just had a Fourth Circuit decision where a conservative judge, Judge Wilkinson, said we need mutual respect between the judiciary and executive branches. I think the Supreme Court's going to pick up on that theme and say everyone needs to de-escalate and get back to regular order.
Certainly, you would think that with somebody like Chief Justice Roberts, who cares so much about protecting the integrity of the court, that he would want to do that. But in this case, it was only a dissent by Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. So do you think that the Chief Justice is listening? And do you think the Chief Justice is aware that maybe we do need to bring regular order to the way they handle these things?
I think he is. Chief Justice Roberts has always been someone who is an incrementalist, an institutionalist, and he is obsessed with regular order. I mean, he's really time and time again pushed back on people trying to cut corners. Now, it's ironic here, Alito saying that's what you're doing, but I think the way that Chief Justice Roberts viewed this is that this is getting out of control. Let's go ahead and stop the action, give ourselves a chance to look at this. But I think that Roberts is very likely looking for a way to give better navigational beacons, to get everyone in a little more controlled state. These district court judges have been issuing these national injunctions despite years of the majority of the Supreme Court saying stop doing this, including Roberts, and they have not listened. So I think that the court is going to be establishing stronger rules to govern these lower courts.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. If you're on the other side of Justice Alito and Justice Thomas, then you're wrong, right? You're definitely wrong, okay? I'm talking to the so-called conservative judges, Amy Coney Barrett, Chief Justice Roberts, and Brett Kavanaugh, right? Clearly you're on the wrong side, okay, if you're not siding with Justice Alito and Clarence Thomas. So what we have here is a temporary roadblock, an annoying roadblock, but regardless, the mass deportations will continue, and the Democrats are going to keep boohoo whining and crying. I, again, personally think that this is not going to work out well for them, but if this is what they want to do, right, if this is the hill they want to die on, great. Okay, they're just getting more and more and more extreme. I think it is out of bounds to now start threatening foreign leaders for working with the United States president. Like, again, you're directly trying to undermine the president and his foreign policy, right? Like, that is what they're doing. And I think that there should be some prosecutions for what these Democrats are attempting to do, to be honest with you. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.